Well, that didn't go as planned. Customer call us, said that he's got an area of his field that won't drain properly, so we started digging around and I think we figured out why. So this was the original tile in the field. At some point in the past somebody came in and plowed right through it, so that means that that whole area out there is not draining. Now this is heavy enough dirt that probably for the first few years after they plowed it, the water was still able to run into cavities around here before the dirt finally settled in and plugged it all off, so they wouldn't have noticed a problem with the tile. So we're gonna have to go in and tee the two sides together to get the water going back through to the main, which is actually just right there at that second pink flag. Anyway, and then up here there's an old clay tile that runs through here that they plowed straight through, which is what that yellow tile would have been splitting originally. Fun. Down in here fixing now. So this is where the black one that cut through the clay went through. Here's where the clay was. I got it all cleaned out. And these 4-inch butt connectors fit really nicely in 4-inch clay tile. So I've got that one plugged. I'm gonna put a T here. So this coming down will tee in and go over to the main, which is only like 10 feet over from here. So it'll be like short runs to every lateral from here where they had plowed through. So it'll get the water back to the main faster. Whereas if I put the T in this way, all the water coming across the field would hit here and then have to go down a 4-inch. So this gets it to the 6-inch. So we don't have cross tees that go through both ways, and it's not really necessary. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so there we go. That one's coming down now, connects into my T, which goes to the main over there. This one is plugged off. That's junk. And Dad and Charlie are over there digging for the next one. So this is the next one. Got her hooked up. This one was the old tile that was broke through with cement. So that means we have cement, clay, yellow plastic, and black plastic that were on this farm. 4 generations of tile, and the youngest generation, this black plastic, darn kids, was the problem because it plowed through the other 3 generations like they weren't there. So we're back out here day 2. We only spent a few hours out here yesterday, but digging this morning we found a clay and a cement 3 feet from each other. So the clay I just went straight through, and then the cement I teed in because there's no sense of wasting a tee here when that's so close for a 2-foot chunk of tile. But somebody, I think whoever put the clay in didn't know that the cement was even in the field apparently, or were assuming a certain spacing and it wasn't actually true. So now check this out. We're digging along and all of a sudden there's a yellow chunk of tile. Old clay, yellow tile. We haven't seen that before in here, but it seems to be there's just a pile of them buried in here. What we're thinking is there's a gas line that goes through up there a ways, and this might have just been their junk pile where they buried that stuff. Hopefully, if we find a whole nother system out here, oh my goodness. So we're backfilling the trench now is what I'm working on. We've got, you can see all the pink and yellow flags out there. Maybe you can't see them well in the camera, but they're all there. The pink indicates everywhere there's a lateral. It comes off the main, and the yellow indicates if it was a plastic lateral. We went through and fixed them all. Now we gotta check out the rest of the farm and see if there's any other problems, but we got a few hundred feet of trench here. We're getting filled in first before we move on. Well, now we're digging to the other end of the farm, and we're finding a system back here that does not match any of the other tile. It's black plastic that was definitely put in with a trench. You can tell because there's black dirt down low in a wide band, whereas with a plow like ours, it would be narrow, which is what that one black tile was that ripped through all the others that we found earlier. That was definitely plowed in. So this system here, which is running perpendicular to all the rest of the system up front, was put in at some other time in history. So that means we are at least the 6th tiler so far to be on this farm with all the different things that we've found. After 3 days of digging and searching around on this farm, 3 part days, I can't lie, none of them were full days because we had other things going, but 3 different times of being out here digging around, locating, we're finally putting tile in the ground. We're quite confident we're not crossing anything existing. We're just splitting the back end of the farm here where the laterals ran north and south. They were at 66 feet. We're putting them down to 33 feet. And then we got one line to pull up closer to the front alongside a big gas main that cuts across the field. But we're going to stay outside of the 30-foot window that is required by law. We could go up to 15 feet, but we have to have the gas company here babysitting us while we pull it. Farmer said he doesn't really need it that close, just something in that area. But we were digging our last hole back there in the back, and we discovered that somebody pulled a 6-inch through back there that we just pulled out when we were digging, thinking we were finding the 10-inch clay. But that one shouldn't be too big of a deal because I think it's for the system that goes off under the corn that we're not doing anything about. So we just got to repair that one spot. We'll tie that last lateral into it there and we should be good to go. Then on to the next job. I wanted to explain the reason the tile is at 66 feet. It seems like such a strange number, but back up until about the 1990s, the most common unit of measurement used for tile was considered a rod. A rod is 16.5 feet long. So most farms in our area were 4 rods in between the laterals. That's how they were laid out to be tiled. So 4 rods is 66 feet. That's how the math works out. And so we're splitting the farms down to 33 feet, which would be 2 rod. The reason that we're going in between the existing tile is because they're too far apart, and you can tell, like, the crops are really good in the area where the existing tile are, every 66 feet, but then in between the crops are not as good. If you look out across the field, you can kind of see where the wheat stubble is thin and the weeds are thicker. That's where the tile is not there. So we're splitting it halfway in between to drain out those areas, because it's just in this heavy ground. We're in some pretty heavy clay on this farm. It's too far for the water to try and travel to get to the tile. If you look at the field right out here in front of me, you can see where I'm driving, the wheat is thin and the weeds are growing faster, and then right off over there to the side, there's almost no weeds and the wheat stubble is quite thick. That's where a tile is. This is where a tile is not. Thank you for tuning in to the Z Farm. If you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe. And, share it with a friend. Maybe send some money this way. Whatever you feel is appropriate. This is Jeremy. Keep it green.